Shalom, shalom. First, I want to start off by giving all honor, praises, and infinite glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, which is the true name of the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, whom the world ignorantly called God in Jesus Christ. Double honors into the elders, apostles, and bishops, the GMS Great Millstone, who rule well, teach, and edify. And peace and blessings to sincere Akim wa Akwat in his household of faith. My name is Yeshaya from the GMS Arizona Church, and I don't want to going to make an edifying video going into this clip from Redacted, actually. I'm going to roll the clip, and Lord willing, we get into some
He met yesterday with energy CEOs, notifying them that this blockade of the strait could go on for a long time, no end in sight, and he posted this on Truth Social. Iran has just informed us that they are in a state of collapse. They want us to open the Hormuz Strait as soon as possible as they try to figure out their leadership situation, which I believe they'll be able to do. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Trump. So is that delusional? Is that true? What about the real possibility that the United States has already lost this war? I want to read a remarkable post from the Moon of Alabama this morning. He wrote, quote, "Even if bombing resumed, there's little evidence that would alter Iran's decision-making process. Quote, the U.S. has lost its war on Iran. Not even one of its strategic goals has been achieved. All its military tactical actions intended to disarm Iran have failed to reach their aims. By taking control of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran delivered the checkmate." So the U.S. has lost, if you listen to what he just wrote.
So, just a kind of a quick perspective about the things that are going on, about in the Middle East, that, Babylon the Great, America, it isn't winning, right? It isn't, spotless. Societies has viewed Babylon as this militant power that just rolls to and fro, and nothing can stand against it. It's a blitzing power. All the way back to the independence of the United States and Britain, and in the Civil War against the two sides. That Americanized spirit. These idiots out here in this gross darkness stage. Are exalting this place, man. They see the memorial stylistic battles that they fought, ultimately, which the Lord allowed them to win at the end of the day, and now it's time that the Lord has them to lose, because we know in Daniel, it says that the Lord ruleth in the kingdom of men. Babylon the Great is surely falling. All right, this is Lamentation chapter 4 and verse 17. It says, "As for us, our eyes yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that cannot save us." And these devils can't save themselves. These devils can't, possibly save themselves. Because at the end of the day, these Americans out here believing in Babylon the Great, they're gonna be thrust through, because Babylon, ultimately, is being controlled by the wicked elite at the rich banking families of Esau, Edom, that control entire countries, like the Rothschilds, how they go into the fact that, he who controls the dollar controls, the power, roughly paraphrasing that. These devils are all ruled by money. All right, from there we have to get, we got to get Isaiah chapter 47, and Ezekiel chapter 38 as well, man. The Lord has put, that spirit upon Russia and the rest of these nations to be standing against Babylon the Great. And as we know in Second Ezra's or First Ezra's, the least of the flock shall draw them out. I think that's Jeremiah, Salakia. This is Jeremiah chapter 50. We can do 49 and 20, and it says, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord, he that hath taken against Edom and his purposes that he hath proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall, and the cry and At the cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea. Behold, he shall come up and fly as eagle and spread his wings over Basra. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom be as the heart of a woman in her pangs. So ultimately the Lord's going to totally bring down this place, man. The pride, the deceit, the lofty looks. This whole place is going to be brought down desolate. And just them saying that in that redacted video. If you go back to the 50s, the 40s, America losing a war, America losing a battle, America not getting their wins on certain fronts of a war, people going to look at you like you have a third head. Like, what is this guy talking about? But now we live in the times where the Lord is waking that spirit up, man, that these devils are going to get brought down. And that's a fact. It's undoubtable that Babylon the Great's misstepping, and ultimately this is all tying towards the MOTB, because they're going to use, this chaos to usher in that RFID microchip, man. They're going to use this chaos to usher in the MOTB so that y'all all could be under control, man. They need a mass chaos. So the main prophecy we were looking for, we looking for the Third World War, but primarily is that mandation of the RFID microchip, man. And if you've been paying attention, brothers have been posting a lot of videos how, in the background they're moving along with that chip, man. In the background they're putting out laws, they're putting out sanctions, they're doing manufacturing, they're setting up databases, they're doing a whole lot of things behind the scenes of this war on the development of the RFID microchip and how they're gonna make this thing, that global enterprise, that the Lord ultimately is gonna bring down, and the elect are not gonna take. This is Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, the lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. And who's the loftiest of them all? Whose look was more stout than their fellow, man. This is Rome in the rebirth. These devils have a high level of pride, a high level of arrogancy, a high level of they can do whatever the hell they want to do, whenever the hell they want to do. And the Lord is going to upset this place, okay? And these devils are going to get that which is, according unto them. For the Lord is a fair judge. This is Isaiah chapter 47:1. And it says, come down, virgin. I'm reading the NLT. It says, come down, virgin, daughter of Babylon, and sit in the dust, for your days of sitting on a throne have ended, O daughter of Babylonia. Your days of sitting on the throne have ended, man. These devils are going to be put into that position that they should be, man. Peasants, servants, you heathen nations as well. All right. And it says, never again will you, Salakia, says, never again will you be the lovely princess, tender and delicate. Take heavy millstones and grind flour, remove your veil and strip off your robe, expose yourself to public view. So these devils going to be under subjection. It says, you will be naked and burned with shame, and I will take vengeance against you without pity. It says, our Redeemer, whose name is the Lord of heaven's armies, is the Holy One of Israel. O beautiful Babylon, sit now in the darkness and silence. Never again will you be known as the queen of kingdoms. Because Babylon the Great has overruled kingdoms, man. Has bewildered kingdoms by their beauty, man. They always say, like, you can tell a nation's conquered by their women. You got women from all over the world that are in a Babylonian mindset, that are an Americanized mindset. That westernized way of thinking has polluted this whole earth. That's why the scriptures say, surely he had making the whole world drunk, roughly paraphrasing. He has caused the whole world to drink from this cup of wine, man, this philosophy. And the Lord is going to come bring this stuff down. This devil thinks his philosophy is superior to everything else. He thinks the American way of life, the American way to move, the American military is all superior. He thinks American education, American development. Well, really, it's just a melting pot of a bunch of nations. Esau, Edom is the basis of men, man. And all they know how to do is plot wickedness and evil. Okay? And you can see them polluting the whole earth. And the Lord's going to bring them down, man. They'll no longer be that queen that sits above. That queen is supposed to be like that highest woman. The highest woman in the courts. Like she's, on a high level. And really that queen goes into the word whore, but, speaking You know, that woman, man, that the rest of these women look up to. You know, no one's going to be looking up to Babylon. No one's going to be looking up to these philosophies. That's why the scriptures talk about, you know, affliction shall not rise again. You know, and the fashion of the world passeth away. You know, scriptures like that show us that this place is through, and it's going to be through forever. It's not just going to be through and then, you know, certain philosophies going to come back in the kingdom of Yahweh Shai. Absolutely not. This place is throughski. It says, our Redeemer, whose name is the Lord of heaven's armies, is the Holy One of Israel. O Babylon, sit now in the darkness and silence. Never again will you be known as the Queen of Kingdoms. For I was angry with my chosen people and punished them by letting them fall into your hands. But now Babylon showed them no mercy, you even the elderly. And the scriptures talk about, believing as Ezekiel says, they have furthered the affliction. You know, these devils have took it to a whole new level, man. These devils have really, you know, like the scriptures say in Psalms, you know, their heart searched deep, you know, for iniquity. You know, they really just plotting this stuff out. It says, you said, I will reign forever as queen of the world. You did not reflect on your actions or think about your consequences. And that's, you know, that's partially, you know, ultimately it was the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua that had him to do it. But, you know, these devils really attacked Iran thinking that they could just do whatever the hell they want to do. You know, it's like a bully that pulled up to a kid with a switchblade. You know, this little badass kid with a buzz cut. You know, his bully thought he could pull up on him. Nah, that kid's splicing you up now. It says, listen to this, you pleasure-loving kingdom, living at ease and feeling secure. You say, I am the only one, and there is no other, and I will be a widow or lose my children. Well, both these things shall come upon you in a moment, widowhood and loss of your children. Yes, these calamities will fall upon you, despite all your witchcraft and magic. You felt secure in your wickedness. No one sees me, you said, but your wisdom and knowledge have led you astray. And you said, I am the one and only, there is no other. So disaster will take over you, and you will not be able to charm it away. Calamity will fall upon you, and you will not be able to buy your way out. A catastrophe will strike you suddenly, one for which you are not prepared. All right, so, you know, this place is through, man. You know, Babylon the Great is losing. Babylon the Great is losing actively as we're speaking, man. You know, you got things like a draft coming up. You know, you got things like them pushing Ford Motors and General Motors towards military production instead of civilian production. You know, you got crackdowns on food. You know, there's gonna be a whole lot of catastrophes that's gonna be hitting Babylon the Great soon, man. It ain't gonna be regular life soon, man. You know, it's gonna be, everything's gonna be stripped away. Rationing is gonna be going out. The love of many shall wax cold. You know, as the Lord begins to visit this earth. But I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to last to give all honor, praises, and infinite glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem